The chat room buzzed with excitement as viewers eagerly awaited the next episode of The Glass House, the latest internet sensation. The show featured a masked figure, the architect, who live-streamed his elaborate and seemingly impossible crimes. What made the show unique, however, was that nobody could tell if the events were real or an elaborate hoax. Detective Sarah Kent had been following The Glass House since its first broadcast. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the show than met the eye. Despite its popularity and the widespread belief that it was a well-executed stunt, Sarah's instincts told her that the architect was more than just an actor. Her suspicions were confirmed when a body was found in a remote warehouse. The victim posed exactly as seen in the latest episode. The crime scene was identical down to the smallest detail, and the victim matched the description of a person reported missing only days before. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the implications. The architect was not only a narcissistic killer, but he was also taunting the public and law enforcement by broadcasting his crimes for all to see. The hunt begins with the confirmation that the architect's crimes were real. Sarah and her partner, Detective Michael Hayes, launched a full-scale investigation. They combed through hours of live stream footage, searching for any clues that might lead them to the identity of the masked killer. The architect was meticulous in his planning. Each episode featured a different location, and he took great care. To ensure that no identifying details were visible, he used advanced encryption and multiple layers of anonymity to hide his true identity. The live streams were hosted on the dark web, making it nearly impossible to trace their origin. As the investigation progressed, Sarah and Michael faced mounting pressure from the public and their superiors. The media had picked up the story, and the architect's notoriety only grew with each broadcast. The detectives knew they had to act quickly before more lives were lost. A break in the case one evening, as Sarah reviewed the latest episode of The Glass House, something caught her. In the background of the crime scene, she noticed a faint reflection in a glass panel. It was a fleeting image, but it was enough to give her a lead. "Michael, look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "Do you see that reflection? It looks like a street sign." Michael squinted at the screen, then nodded. "You're right. If we can enhance the image, we might be able to identify the location." They enlisted the help of the tech team, who worked tirelessly to enhance the reflection. After several hours, they managed to make out the name of a street and a few other details. It was enough to pinpoint the location of the warehouse where the latest crime had taken place. Sarah and Michael rushed to the scene, hoping to find any evidence that might lead them to the architect. As they searched the warehouse, they discovered a hidden room filled with monitors, recording equipment, and detailed plans for future episodes. The face behind the mask among the evidence, they found a folder containing photographs of potential victims, along with notes on their routines and habits. It was clear that the architect had been planning his crimes for months, if not years. But the most shocking discovery was a series of photographs that appeared to show the architect without his mask. The images were grainy and unclear, but they provided enough detail to create a composite sketch of the suspect. Armed with this new information, Sarah and Michael intensified their efforts to track down the architect. They circulated the composite sketch to law enforcement agencies and the media, hoping that someone would recognize the face. The final showdown days turned into weeks, and the pressure continued to mount. Then, one afternoon, Sarah received a call from a woman who claimed to recognize the face in the sketch. She identified the man as Robert Langford, a former film director known for his elaborate and controversial productions. Langford had disappeared from the public eye years ago after a series of scandals and legal troubles. With this new lead, Sarah and Michael delved into Langford's past, uncovering a history of narcissism, manipulation, and a deep-seated desire for control and recognition. It all fit perfectly with the architect's profile. They tracked Langford to an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of the city. The mansion was surrounded by high walls and security cameras, making it a fortress. Undeterred, Sarah and Michael devised a plan to infiltrate the mansion and apprehend Langford. Under the cover of darkness, they scaled the walls and made their way through the mansion's labyrinthine corridors. They could hear Langford's voice echoing through the halls, rehearsing for his next episode. When they finally reached the control room, they found Langford standing in front of a bank of monitors, his mask discarded on the floor. He seemed unfazed by their presence, a twisted smile playing on his lips. "Ah, detectives," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Welcome to the Glass House. I must admit you've made this game far more interesting." Sarah stepped forward, her gun trained on Langford. "It's over, Langford. You're under arrest for multiple counts of murder." Langford laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down their spines. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning. My legacy will live on long after you're gone." Before they could react, Langford pressed a button on the control panel, triggering a countdown on the monitors. Explosives were wired throughout the mansion, set to detonate in minutes. "Run!" Sarah shouted, grabbing Michael's arm and pulling him toward the exit. They raced through the mansion, the countdown ticking away in their ears. Just as they reached the outer gates, the explosives detonated, sending a shockwave through the air. The mansion was engulfed in flames, and Langford's twisted masterpiece was reduced to rubble. In the aftermath of the explosion, Sarah and Michael sifted through the wreckage, searching for any trace of Langford's remains. Though the body was never found, the evidence they had gathered was enough to close the case. The Glass House was no more, but its impact on the public and law enforcement would be felt for years to come. Sarah and Michael had brought an end to Langford's reign of terror, but they knew that the world would always have its share of monsters lurking in the shadows. As they returned to the precinct, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Langford's final words held a grain of truth. His legacy would indeed live on, not in the way he had envisioned, but as a cautionary tale of the dangers of unchecked ego and the quest for fame. And so, the story of the Glass House came to an end, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and a haunting reminder of the darkness that can dwell within the human soul.